All right, everybody, it's the Combat Cast. I'm the man they call Dave. We got Chevarooney. You know the deal. Let's listen to this intro video, and then we're going to talk some combat sports. Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you, because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, let's talk some combat sports. There was a lot of shit that went down this past weekend. But Chevy, first tell them what we got coming up and what we don't know what's coming up.
All right, May 21st, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night, Holm versus Vieira. Then Memorial Day weekend, we're not sure what we're going to do for you guys yet, but there's no fight card. So we'll put something together. Then we'll be back June 4th to preview UFC Fight Night, Volkov versus Rosenstruck.
All right. Now, you said, why don't we kick things off talking with the Canelo fight? I'll just add this before we talk about the Canelo fight. We were in the middle of watching the Rose Esparza fight. And it was at this point I decided to look for a feed. And I found the Canelo fight. And at that point, he was losing. He appeared to be in a front headlock at one point and picked the guy up. But it wasn't going well for old Canelo, but he made my day because it got me to take a break from that fight. And we'll talk more about that in depth later. I got plenty to say about that. But, yeah, what were your thoughts about what happened with Canelo? I mean, to me, the guy's stepping up in weight class, and what do you want? But
Right. At this point, I just wasn't interested in watching Canelo fights because I assumed he was just going to roll through whoever he fought. Didn't matter the weight class. So it's good to see that he is human. I expect he's going to get a rematch. And I expect him to do better. But in the rounds that you and I saw, he looked severely outmatched. You know, he looked like what he normally does to guys was being done to him. So if you come up against someone who has the same skill set as you, but is just bigger and stronger, you know, eventually that's going to end in a loss. And that's what happened. So hopefully he'll make some adjustments and he'll get this fight back and continue his greatness.
yeah, I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, Jan and Izzy's the one that comes to mind immediately. You know, size isn't everything, but it's not like these guys that they're stepping up to fight are just untalented people. They're champions of their respective weight classes. So when you're stepping up in that weight class and you're fighting equally or more talented people, or even close to talented, that size is going to start to play a factor at some point.
Right.
Usually.
It can make up the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like they say, they got weight classes for a reason, usually. But I admire the Izzies and the Canelos of this world who step out of their comfort zone, especially in combat sports.
Right.
To take those kind of chances. It's huge. And I always will be drawn to that. Those people, like, you know, I know we're thinking Holloway is probably going to beat Volkanovski, but even if Volkanovski finds a way to win again, or even if Holloway wins, like, I'd love to see either of those guys step up and fight for the lightweight title because they're just so talented and they've clearly been the top two guys at the division for so long. So, you know, I'll always be fascinated. I'm always interested in it. But yeah, just sometimes you're just going to run into these tough matchups.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And that's what happens when you chase greatness like Canelo does. And, you know, still all the respect to him, like you said.
Yeah, and I'll be very interested in the rematch because he is such a great fighter, and you know they're going to game plan, and I'm interested to see what happens.
I bet that fight sells more than this fight sold. That rematch sells more. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's throw some Bellator notes at us here. Lorenz Larkin was in the card over the weekend in Paris, France. He got a TKO over Kyle Stewart. Yoel Romero TKO'd this poor guy, Alex Posey, as our buddy Scott said from Valdon. He played with his food for 4 minutes and 59 seconds of the third round. So basically the whole fight, and then he finished him with a second remaining.
And I saw that he knocked him down at one point, and he didn't jump on top of me. He put his hand up and said, no, wait. Like to the crowd, like, I'm not ready to finish him yet.
Oh, my goodness. That was a character.
Forever the showman, yeah.
Yeah, always something with Yoel. And Ryan Bader grinded out that decision. I knew, like, I think I went with Congo, but I knew, like, this was probably going to end up where somebody was going to do this to each other. I was hoping, because Congo was so much bigger, that he would just maybe catch Bader on the chin and we'd call it a day. It wasn't even against Bader. I just knew this fight was going to be what it was. But it was probably not the most boring fight of the weekend. We will get to that shortly. Anything you want to add to this Bellator card?
I called the Bader Congo fight being boring, and that was a real hot take, I'm sure. Shout out to Yoel. He's 1,000 years old, still doing it, and glad to see Lorenz Larkins getting wins over in Bellator.
Absolutely. PFL had a card this weekend too. Rory McDonald. I did not actually get to see this fight. I know you did. Brett Cooper. Rory picks up the dub. Looks like rear naked choke. What do you think of this?
Great. He looked vintage Rory. Dominated in every aspect of the fight while it lasted. Cooper just looked super outclassed. He's an experienced guy, but Rory just rolled right through him. Wrestling heavy, got on top of him, and finished him.
Gauge my IQ in the comments. I will jump ahead just a little bit because I know at this point I think we had gotten tired. But basically, Kayla Harrison, by all reports, she looked a little bit off. She was not happy with her performance. She got the dub, but I mean, like, that could be, at some point maybe she's just bored too.
Right, yeah.
Politely.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, it's hard to get up for these fights. Yeah.
I want to finish with what Cage Mike was talking about. But Ray Cooper, I didn't see this one, but he lost to Carlos Leal. It was a catchweight fight, and Cooper was another guy that looked a little off, I think you were telling me.
Yeah, he just couldn't pull the trigger. I'm not sure what it was. It's very, very uncharacteristic of him. He just couldn't pull the trigger, and he ended up getting outpointed for sure. Got beat up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a shame. And not a shame, as Cage Mikey pointed out, Anthony Pettis did look on point. Now, he was fighting a guy in Miles Price who was game, good record, good competitor, but had been out for a little while. I do want to point that out. But, I thought Anthony looked sharp. He looked definitely like the old Pettis. He was in there looking good, taking chances, striking, jiu-jitsu, all looked on point. And, he got that triangle choke. And good for Anthony and good for the PFL, too, because you want guys like Anthony and Rory McDonald to be getting those wins and at least in the finals of the respective these tournaments. You want that name value.
Yeah, name value is important for sure.
Any other comments on Anthony Pettis? I know he just looked good. I thought
he looked great. I was happy to see him get the win. Hopefully he can go on, move on, get to the finals this year.
All right, let's get to UFC 274. Anything you want to talk about before we get to the main card?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Andre Viejo looked good.
Yes.
I mean, he's been looking good, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see him up in the rankings sooner rather than later. So he looked good. Brandon Royval, Matt Schnell was a good fight. Unfortunately, Matt Schnell lost his mother recently, and Brendan Royval comforted him a bit after the fight. That was good to see.
Yeah.
That was about it on the prelims that I thought was noteworthy.
Yeah, Royal, he's always been a super classy guy from what I've seen. And a good competitor at flyweight. But that division, I just feel like your tippy top guys are just ahead of the game right there, right now.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure.
Randy Brown picked up the dub. Chaos Williams split decision. What are your thoughts on this one?
This was a fight that got moved to the main event because, unfortunately, after the weight cut, Cowboy got food poisoning, so they had to move the Cowboy versus Lozon fight to, I think it's in July in Texas or something like that. So that's great for Randy Brown and Chaos Williams to get that extra exposure on the pay-per-view, though. Randy did get clipped a couple times, but pretty much he controlled the fight and stayed safe. His head movement looked great in some parts of the fight. I thought he looked very great.
What do you think about him in a fight? I'm just looking at some of the top competitors in the top 15 because he's not in there. What about number 13, Lee Jingling there?
I like Randy in that fight, honestly. I think he's very good with his range. Especially, I think it would be similar to this Chaos Williams fight because Chaos and Li Jingling, they're both power punchers, explosive power punchers, but maybe not the most technical fighters. So I think Randy would be much better on the ground and be able to keep his distance on the feet.
Yeah, I think that would be a very interesting fight. All right. OSP versus Shogun. OSP picks up the split decision. Not really a memorable fight.
Body kicks.
Yeah.
That was basically the story of the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's much to it. I'll just throw a name out there for a next opponent too. We'll just keep up with that theme a little bit. What about looking again towards the upper top 15, maybe a guy like Ryan Spann for OSP?
I believe Ryan Spann's fighting on this card, right? So we'll see how he does on this one. But I think matchup-wise, that's a great fight, yeah.
Yeah. A guy like Paul.
Both guys are dangerous, yeah.
Always interesting too, but I think Paul's looking for upward into contenders at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's the fight. I think that was one of the fights was on everybody's mind for opposite reasons of the one we'll talk about soon. But Michael Chandler with that frigging kick against Ferguson. Before this, I thought Ferguson looked on point. I don't know if he won that first round because he was down, but he was looking great off his back. He was looking like the Tony of old. And I was saying that I thought a 3-round fight favored Chandler. Tony doesn't get finished, but I was really ready to eat some crow because I thought Ferguson was doing the pace and everything that he did. Now, Chandler's so explosive. There's always that chance, and I think you even called it. And boy, I don't know if we were going to call that, but such a spectacular kick. I was legit scared for Tony.
It was very scary.
Yeah, guy asking for insurance and killed, and then Michael's doing backflip after backflip. But it was exciting. I'm glad Tony's okay. Everybody was super respectful to each other afterwards, and I think this is a great performance for Michael Chandler. And I'm interested to see where he goes next. And I think Dana basically said the same thing that we all thought. Tony looked great and got caught. And, I don't think he wants Tony to go anywhere too. So.
Right. I mean, this is his 4th loss in a row, but he's lost to Justin Gaethje, who was fighting for the title. He lost to Oliveira, who is the champ, quote unquote, the champ. He's not the champ, but is the champ. And who is his 3rd loss in there? It was another super top guy. I can't.
Dariush.
Yeah, Dariush. Yeah, he got heel hooked, right? So,
yeah,
he's fighting killers. I think he's just due these losses from his 12 wins in a row or whatever it was. I did think maybe he's near the end of his career, but he looked fantastic until he got caught. Now, does he look like he's 50 years old when Bruce Buffer's, doing his intro? Yes, he does. But, I mean, once that fight started, he was piecing up Chandler. Clipped him early, which happens in every Chandler fight, apparently. So, and also, there was no way he was expecting a front kick from Chandler. Chandler's done that never. So
no, good game plan, by the way. They called that,
yeah. So I don't think. I'm glad that Tony's not too down on himself, and hopefully he just moves on from here and he can make another run.
Tony's looking for a fight camp now. I don't know. I'd like this maybe. I think we've possibly seen this fight before, but it might be a good time to maybe do a match with him and RDA. Could be good, given the name value, where they're at in their careers. I know a name you don't really particularly care for, but it'd be interesting because he's got a good ground game, Gregor Gillespie. But I'd like to see Tony fight somewhere in that upper 15, and I don't want to see him fight Dan Hooker because I really don't want to see either one of these guys take another L. But
I don't want to see that one. Yeah. The Gregor fight is interesting. I don't dislike Gregor. I just think his style makes fights boring. He's so good at just holding on to people and beating them up. I think, and Tony's game is not to try to get up and get away from people. It's just to try to elbow these wrestlers, and then he'll end up just losing, but not taking a lot of damage unless he can catch him in a darce or something like that. But that's not a bad matchup. I mean, it's a tough fight for Tony. Another tough fight. I'd like to see him. I know the UFC doesn't really do this, but give him someone who's he is a favorite over. But it's tough when you're at his level for sure.
Well, the guy right below him is Rafael Fiziev.
Fiziev would be a good matchup. Exciting, good. Good either way for the UFC. Good name value, stepping stone for Fiziev if he wins, and winnable fight for Tony, and his stock doesn't go down too much.
I think for Chandler, I think the fight I want to see is Dustin Poirier.
I don't know. I heard talks about maybe Nate Diaz. I think that would be a good one. I kind of don't want to see Nate fight Hazmat and just get fucking smashed because that's what's going to happen.
Stylistically, Nate could be a good fight for Chandler because Nate can hang in terms of boxing. But Chandler's got that wrestling too. And Nate's got jiu-jitsu. I think Chandler's stronger, but stylistically, I feel like Nate, that's a good fight for him. Like if you were going to say, Nate could, and he would be the underdog. But I don't care what the Nate Diaz Army says. He would be the underdog. But that would be stylistically a fight that I think, Chandler's a guy that'll bang with him.
Well, Chandler also can get fatigued, and Diaz is never going to get tired, and he's going to push that pressure and keep that pace up the entire fight. So a 5-round fight between those two, because I'm pretty sure Nate only is going to get 5-round fights at this point. I just think that would be a really good matchup.
I see Cage Monkey. Chandler fights Darius if Islam fights Charles. That's a possibility. A lot of people talking about Islam fighting Charles, but Dana seems like he really wants to do that Dariush Islam fight still too.
I want to see Dariush versus Islam. I still want to see that fight, but
all right, let's get to the women's flyweight title fight. All right, I'll go on my little thing here before we pitch to you. All right, so Carlos Esparza defeats Thug Rose, wins the title. First off, I'm happy for her because this is a great legacy. And even though it's a boring ass fight, I mean, Carla is the initial ever strawweight champion, and now she's a 2-time champ. She, other than early Rose, she didn't have those signature victories. Like she pulled victories, those tough victories, but she didn't have the wins over the Jade Checks or the Weili Zhangs or the Jessica Andrades. So good for her. Now I know Randy Osga and even you know, like we talked about the wrestling, and I understood that going into that could be an issue. I expected Rose to, I don't know. I guess I thought she'd be a little more I thought she would try to push the striking more than what she did, obviously. I heard her talk about getting credit for being a defensive fighter. I get that. And I think that Trevor Whitman is one of the best coaches of all time. It was a rough night, but I think he's still one of the best. I think Pat has been nothing but good to her, but they talked about Pat Barry said basically she stuck to the game plan and nobody broke the game plan. Carla stuck to her game plan. And I get that. And I get I'm just a fan. But from a fan point of view, I think at some point it was very obvious to everybody the game plan wasn't working. And she was losing that fight by not doing as much. That Carla was clearly winning this fight by the little bit she was doing. The commentary saw it that way. I saw it that way. I think most everybody saw it that way. And so I'm not convinced that Carla is the better fighter than Rose. But, man, styles do make a fucking matchup. And, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure UFC's not in a hurry to book that again.
Never.
But we'll see what happens. But congratulations to Carla. I think if Andrade or the J-Check, I know she's got to fight with Weili, but if one of them, I think if one of those girls beats Carla, Rose is going to be right there for a rematch again.
Yeah, obviously, super disappointing fight. I think this fight was more, they can talk about it was the game plan or whatever, and she executed the game plan. Well, it was a poor game plan. Like you said, you have to realize, and Cage My IQ is saying the same thing. At some point, you have to realize this fight is at least close. You could think that you're winning, but it's close enough. You know how judging is in MMA. You need to go out and put a stamp on these. So I thought that every time she did get taken down, she did a great job getting up. And she, the commentary team was talking about this too. That should have given her some confidence to engage in the striking game a little bit more and fight to stay on her feet. But that's not what she did. And I mean, the way the rules are set up, you don't get points for being a defensive fighter. So I think that's a BS excuse. If she followed the game plan, that's on Pat Barry and Trevor Whitman for not recognizing that it wasn't working. It's a sport. You could be winning a fight by not taking damage, but it's a sport. You need to be offense is important. So
yeah.
I don't know if we'll see this fight again, but I honestly just think it's a mental block on Rose.
That's what I felt like.
Yeah, she didn't. I feel like she never got in the flow of the fight. So, you know how sometimes she just gets in the zone and she head kicks Weili or some shit like that, or hook lands that check hook on Joanna. That opportunity never materialized in this fight because of the way she was fighting, the style she was fighting. So, disappointing. But she can't be too disappointed with that loss,
Yeah. I think to me right now, since we already made the J-Check Weili fight, I wouldn't be mad if Andrade got a shot at Carla Esparza.
Yeah, same. I kind of think that is what we're gonna see.
It'd be a good fight. Carla's got the wrestling, but Andrade has got the jiu-jitsu.
She's way stronger than Carla.
And if she wins, man, that sets up friggin' all kinds of matchups because Weili, if she wins, she knocked out Andrade with a head kick.
Mm-hmm.
J-Check has a victory over Andrade, and Rose and Andrade are 1-1. So, I don't want to take away from Carla, but man, it would be interesting to see if
Marina Rodriguez, yeah, that's a good call too. Yeah, she deserves a shot at this point as well.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think this and the Chandler fight were obviously the big talks. Besides the main event, we'll get to that main event now. Man, I was just so disappointed Charles missed weight. Now it looks like there might have been more to this with the scale and everything. And Dana talked about they're going to have a guard watching the scale now. And Charles been on has been on point as lightweight. It was really, mostly his featherweight days where he had problems. He definitely seemed when he stepped on the scale like he thought he was going to weigh in correctly. But man, it's such a mess. You just, that being said, exciting fight. Seems to be the formula. Charles gets rocked, and then he comes back and submits dudes. Gaethje had already busted him open. This is all round one, by the way. He wouldn't go down with Charles, which we thought was very smart. But Charles is like, okay, now I'm going to have to, get aggressive, and I'm going to get you down. And the only thing I would say critical, again, as a fan, is this is twice now with Justin. I feel like as good a wrestler he is, and he uses that wrestling to keep everything standing, defensively against these guys with their submission games, he has not shown a lot. Like, he's so good everywhere else, but it's almost coming off like a specialist. Like, like he has no answer for this. Is like a very glaring hole in the game that if people can get him down, which is a bitch, and not many people can do that. He's gonna have problems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care how much jiu-jitsu he practiced in that situation against the best finisher of all time in the UFC, he's getting submitted. So I mean, and his other losses to Khabib, who also monster grappler. So I don't want to put too much stock in that. His jiu-jitsu definitely looks suspect, but if I remember correctly, he got put on the ground via it was a punch. Your wrestling's not going to protect you from that. If you're going to wade into the fire and get clipped, that's going to happen occasionally. So
no, that's fair. I think on the ground it does not look good. Now, how he got on the ground, no, you can't take away from Charles. Like this guy can strike too. Like he's
good really improved his striking. Yes.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Randy's asking who's he to take on next. Who's our favorite fight of the night? My favorite fight, I think, was Chandler and Ferguson for those 2 rounds. This fight was
absolutely
close. Yeah. That weight thing really just left a bad taste in my mouth. They did as good a job as they could. Like it was such an exciting first round, and they did what they had to. That I'm over it. But like if I'm looking at like my favorite fights, that plays a factor. And Chandler. Go ahead.
It's just a bummer for Oliveira's legacy. That's a bump in the road in his title defenses. So. And now, he has to fight again to actually win the championship. And I believe the way contracts are structured, you make more money while you're the champion. Technically, he's not the champion now, so he'll make significantly less money for his next fight. So, Overwatch championship. No, this is a Daniel Cormier double champ, Randy. Respect, DC.
So, what's next for Charles? If Dana wants to make that Dariush Islam fight, then I think there really is no clear cut, because I think one of those two should be the guy that fights him.
Right. I mean, unless barring some weird shit where Conor comes back, which he's 190 pounds or whatever, he's not fighting that lightweight anytime soon. So I really think it's just going to be, I don't know, Charles likes to be active, but I think he's just going to wait.
He'll either wait or Dana will have to give him one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the fight, which would probably be Islam. Yeah, if that's the case. I just want to throw this out there just for a wild card. I don't think this is going to happen. And I think he's too small, but what do you think about him at welterweight?
He's tall. He's pretty tall, but I mean, with that jiu-jitsu, he could try. Yeah, he could try. I think stylistically, decent matchup against Usman. I just think he would probably be a little bit too small.
That's what I think is the size is going to be.
The strength difference, I think, is immense between 155 and 170.
I agree. Yeah, that 15 pounds. So let's get. We started off talking about size, and now we're going to conclude this with size. And I think I used Jan as an example. Now we're talking about the cardio headlines. So let's talk about this fight card here coming up this weekend. Blackowitz. I always mess up on his name. Blackowitz, yeah. And then Alexander Rakic.
It's Rakic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rakic. Well, let's work our way up there. Jake Hadley versus Alan Nascimento.
Yeah, I don't know much about either one of these guys.
Okay, here's what I do know. Hadley is 8-0.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 KOs, 4 subs, 2 decisions. This is his UFC debut, and he's coming from the Contender Series. Allen is 18-6, 2 KOs, 13 subs, 3 decisions, and this is his second UFC fight. He lost his debut, so he is coming off a victory. Yeah, he's got a lot more fights. Hadley seems like the guy who's undefeated, right? So this is probably his test. I'll go with Jake Hadley. I like a guy that's coming in like a prospect like this. Flyweights, by the way, too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hadley as well. I think it'll be a decision now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't say that. Yeah, decision. I agree. Because the other guy has a lot of experience. And all
yeah,
that.
Exactly. So then
we got
and
Frank.
It's never been finished before. So
right. So yeah. Frank Camacho, 22-9, 17 KOs, 2 subs, 3 decisions. This guy doesn't like to go to distance. He's had Fight of the Night 3 times. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This guy, 2010 BJJ World Champion, 2013 European Jiu-Jitsu silver medalist. I mean, there's so many like Pan Am games. There's so much this guy's done. But he is on a 2-fight losing streak, so he needs a win too. Taking on Manuel Torres, who's 12-2, who's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's making debut off the Contender Series here. I don't know. This again seems kind of like the new guy trying against the older guy would make a name, but I think Camacho all that jiu-jitsu, he likes to fight, and I think he really needs this victory. I think his back's against the wall, and I think he'll come out here. I don't know. I'll say it's another tough fight. This is probably another decision, but I got Frank Camacho.
I'm going to say decision for Manuel Roberto Torres because Camacho's lost 4 of his last 5. I think maybe he's just reached that point in his career that maybe he goes to a different promotion, finds a few easier fights.
Yeah. Cage My IQ thinks he's going to get a knockout first round, but he agrees with you, Torres by decision. He's got quick hands. So we'll see. This fight, I think next fight's going to go to decision, I think. Caitlin Chikagian, 17-4, 3-fight win streak. And this is like, I'm not picking on the girl, but 2 KOs, 1 subs, 14 decisions. Like she's a decision.
All her fight. I think all of her UFC fights have been decisions, I believe.
She has most unanimous decision wins in UFC at women's flyweight division. So tied.
All her wins. Her losses are finishes.
Yeah. Yes. Amanda Ribas, she's 11-2, 3 knockouts, 4 subs, 4 decisions. I got Caitlin here by decision.
I'm gonna go with Amanda Ribas. I think she's looked very well, or she's looked great recently. I think if she can get inside and avoid those deep body kicks from Chikagian, she can do some work on her. So I'm going to go with probably another decision now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Randy asked if we're going to see knockouts on the card. Well, let's keep going. Davey Grant, 13-6, 3 KOs, 8 subs, 2 decisions. Performance of the night 2 times. Fight of the night 2 times. Louis Smoka, he's got 8 KOs, 7 subs, 2 decisions. So yeah, he's 7. I even have his own record down here. Sorry, Louis. Performance of the night 2 times. Fight of the night 1 time. I like Smoka. He's an explosive fighter. He's a guy that could maybe get a finish. I don't know. Maybe we will get a finish here. I could see Grant getting one too, though. Pretty evenly matched, I think. I'll go with Smoka. I'll go with I'll say he gets a choke in round 3.
I'm gonna go with Davey Grant. I'm also kind of a Louis Smoka fan. I know he was in the UFC and then he got cut and then he came back. He's a tough guy, but I think he's gonna get knocked out pretty early, probably first round in this fight. Yeah,
I think Cage agrees with you. Second round. We got Ryan Spann, 19-7 on this card. 5 KOs, 11 subs, 3 decisions. Performance of the night. This guy's had the Legacy LFA championship. So, he's had some regional belts against Kudo Laba, who is 16-6-1, 12 KOs, 2 subs, 2 decisions. This one probably won't go to distance either, actually. Kudo Laba loves to bring it. Spann likes to bring it. Someone's probably going to go out early. I don't know. What do you think? I'll ask you first.
I'm gonna go with Ryan Spann. I know the majority of his finishes are submissions, but his hands have looked really great lately. So I'm hoping he's gonna keep his distance because I believe he'll be the taller fighter, a little bit rangier. Kudalabra's got power, so if he can avoid the early punches, I think, wear him down a little bit and then land some heavy right hands on him at distance, keep his punches as straight punches and not looping hooks. He can finish him probably second or third round.
Okay. I think I'm going to go Kudaraba. I think I'm looking back at Smith. Spann's coming off that loss to Anthony Smith where he got caught too. And I think Kudaraba might hit harder than Anthony Smith. So that's what keeps popping in my head here. I could see this going either way, though. I think this is actually
Smith is the same size as Ryan Spann, if not bigger, though.
True.
So harder for him to keep him at distance. But
well, we've been disagreeing on everything. Let's go. I'll go Kudaraba. I'll say first round finish, just because I think they're going to go out blazing. I don't think it's going to get caught. And then we got Jan, 28-9, 8 knockouts, 9 subs, 11 decisions. Former UFC light heavyweight champ. Performance of the night 5 times. Fight of the night against Rakshik, 14-2. Performance of the night 6-1 in the UFC. Razor close loss to Volkan Ozdemir, though. Like, a lot of people actually thought he won that fight, but it wasn't like anyone thought it was a robbery. It was a close fight. So this guy's almost arguably could have been undefeated if that decision had gone his way. I think I don't know if Jan's the favorite, but I think I don't know. I smell a loss here. I think Alexander might catch him. Yeah, I'll go with Rochek. Third round finish. TKO.
I'm really torn on this one because I really think that Rakic is underrated for sure. He flies under the radar. But I just think stylistically, Jan is tough to finish. He's got a giant block head. So I think he's going to be hard to knock out. And grappling wise, I think that he'll be the stronger of the two. So I'm going to go. Hey, we'll keep it rolling. I'm going to say Jan by KO.
Okay.
I'll say.
I almost want to take mine back, but
I'll say round 3.
Just to keep it, keep us on both sides.
I like both guys, but I hope Rakic wins because I think he could be a star. He's not super great on the mic, but his skills wise, he's phenomenal.
This is definitely a big fight for John. I think a little more just because coming off that loss, and he's older too. I think he's mid to late 30s. So I think this is a fight that he's definitely going to.
39.
39? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Just 30, so big difference.
Winner of this is definitely in the title contention, though. Like, you're right there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to be fighting Yuri, who will probably decapitate Glover, R.I.P. Glover.
Yeah. Do you think anybody's catching Yuri right now in that light heavyweight division?
Rakic could. Yeah. I think both these guys have a good chance against him, but he's an anomaly for sure. He's a tough person to game plan for and train for. So,
Magomed
Ankalaev.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone named Magomed is dangerous. They could all be the champ.
All right. Let's I don't know. Stylistically though, I don't know. We might not get a lot of finishes on this card this weekend, but we'll see what happens. What do we got coming up?
All right. May 21st, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night Holm versus Vieira. And Memorial Day weekend, we're going to figure something out for you guys. And then June 4th, we'll be back with UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Rosenstruck.
There you go. All right, guys, that's it. There was a ton of fights this weekend. Not all of them were exciting, but some of them were. Some of them were really damn good.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week to talk some more fights, and we'll see you at ringside. Thanks, guys.